Lewis Hamilton signs with Red Bull and ditches Ferrari before the Singapore Grand Prix. Stay until the end to find out when it will be announced before anyone else. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. The announcement has detonated like a bomb across Formula One, leaving fans, teams, and insiders reeling from a twist no one thought possible. Lewis Hamilton, the driver who defined an era with Mercedes and was expected to close his career at Ferrari, has signed a contract with Red Bull Racing. The news is so extraordinary that even those who have lived through the sport's most dramatic sagas admit they have never seen anything quite like it. After months of quiet whispers, rumors of secret negotiations, and speculation about fractured relationships, it is now official. Hamilton will stand alongside Max Verstappen in what is already being hailed as the most volatile and electrifying driver partnership in the history of the grid. This move was only made possible by the perfect storm of circumstances. Red Bull's internal shakeup following Christian Horner's departure created not just a leadership vacuum but an immense financial opportunity. The executive contracts, long-term commitments, and padded bonuses tied to Horner and his allies dissolved almost overnight, leaving Red Bull with resources that could be redirected towards something bigger than anyone had dared to imagine. With Ferrari floundering under the weight of broken promises and Mercedes stumbling through uncertainty, Red Bull saw the chance to strike at the perfect moment, and they did so with ruthless precision. Talks with Hamilton's camp began quietly, through intermediaries trusted by both sides, but they escalated almost immediately once his interest became clear. Sources close to the negotiations describe meetings in Salzburg that lasted until dawn, where Hamilton's representatives and Red Bull's leadership discussed every angle of the partnership, not just financial rewards, but Hamilton's role in shaping the future of the team. For the first time in his career, he was offered true influence over technical direction, input into development strategy, and guarantees that his presence would extend far beyond the cockpit. The contract they crafted reflects both ambition and respect, a record-breaking base salary enhanced by a web of performance incentives tied to wins, podiums, poles, and championships. Should Hamilton and Verstappen elevate Red Bull to even greater heights, the financial upside for Hamilton will exceed anything he earned during his years of dominance at Mercedes. For Ferrari, this turn of events is nothing short of catastrophic. The driver they had paraded as their savior, the man meant to restore the glory of Schumacher's era, has walked away before delivering the success they promised him. Their gamble has collapsed into public humiliation. For Mercedes, the sting is equally painful. The team that once built its empire around Hamilton now has to watch as he joins forces with the very rival that dismantled their dynasty. Across the grid, rival outfits are alarmed, admitting privately that a Verstappen-Hamilton lineup may prove unstoppable, a pairing with the potential to erase competition in ways that even Mercedes' golden years never fully achieved. Inside Red Bull itself, the situation promises both unrivaled excitement and unprecedented tension. Verstappen has been the unchallenged focal point of the team, the driver around whom every decision has revolved. Now he must share the spotlight with the one rival who has the resume, the reputation, and the hunger to challenge his supremacy head-on. The garage, once a fortress built entirely for Verstappen's ambitions, will now have to balance two titanic egos, two extraordinary talents, and two legacies that refuse to bow. Engineers and strategists face a monumental challenge: keep harmony within the team while managing a rivalry that could either deliver domination or descend into chaos. Fans have responded with an explosion of emotion. For some, Hamilton's move is seen as the ultimate masterstroke, a refusal to settle for decline, proof of his relentless will to fight for greatness until the very end. For others, it feels like a betrayal, the abandonment of Ferrari before the project truly matured, an act of ambition that overshadows loyalty. Verstappen supporters, meanwhile, are divided between exhilaration at the prospect of two legends in the same team and concern that Hamilton's presence could disrupt the stable ecosystem that has fueled years of Red Bull supremacy. Social media is ablaze with arguments, predictions, and speculation, every fan taking a side in what is quickly becoming the most polarizing storyline the sport has ever seen. For Hamilton, this is not merely a contract, it is a statement of intent. It is the boldest decision of his career, a declaration that he will not let the twilight of his journey fade quietly, but will instead confront the sport's reigning champion in his own territory. For Red Bull, it is a show of defiance, a way of turning scandal and instability into strength, proving that they can not only dominate but redefine what dominance means. For Formula One, it is theater of the highest order, ambition colliding with ambition, rivalry layered upon rivalry, and a saga so dramatic that it will echo long after the checkered flags of this season have fallen. What has everyone talking is not just the signing itself, Not the headlines about contracts or the sponsorship ripple effects, but the way this decision has ripped open the very structure of a team that had spent years building its identity around a single man. For as long as anyone can remember, Max Verstappen has been the undisputed cornerstone at Red Bull, the driver whose influence stretched far beyond the track. His input shaped the design of the car, his preferences dictated setup directions, and his sheer dominance gave him a status that was never questioned. He was the one around whom the entire organization revolved, the lodestar guiding every decision, the reference point for every calculation. With Hamilton now stepping into that ecosystem, everything that once felt stable has been thrown into disarray. Those who were present at their first official meeting describe an atmosphere thick with tension. It was meant to be cordial, a chance for both men to acknowledge each other and set a professional tone, but it didn't take long before civility cracked. Verstappen, protective of his position, made it clear in no uncertain terms that Red Bull was his territory, his team, and that nothing about that hierarchy would shift. Hamilton, unshaken and almost serene in his delivery, responded that teams are never possessions, that they belong to performance, results, and the relentless work of the hundreds who build the cars. That single statement reportedly left Verstappen bristling with fury, his words rising, the atmosphere teetering on collapse until senior figures stepped in to calm the storm. What began as an introduction became the spark of a conflict that promises to define everything that follows. Since then, the echoes of that exchange have spread through every corner of the paddock. Engineers, mechanics, strategists, people who once moved in lockstep, are now quietly debating where their loyalties lie. Some remain firmly in Verstappen's camp, having shared in the victories and the long grind of building dominance. Others are eager to work with Hamilton, whose reputation for precision and feedback has impressed every team he's ever been part of. Stories circulate about his ability to dissect data, to notice minute changes in balance or tire where that others miss, and that skill excites a section of the factory who see in him an unmatched source of progress. Milton Keynes is alive with murmurs of division, and while nothing is said outright, the split is already visible in the way people talk and the projects they prioritize. The smallest details now carry enormous weight. When new components are ready but only one is available, whose car will they be fitted to? When pit wall strategists must choose between overlapping stops, which driver gets the call? When resources are limited, whose voice will the technical department heed? These choices, routine in the past, now feel like loaded weapons capable of inflaming rivalries not only between the drivers but within the staff itself. Rival teams are watching with fascination, some predicting that Red Bull has engineered its own downfall by pairing two of the most dominant figures of the modern era, each unwilling to yield. Others fear that the gamble may pay off spectacularly, producing a car pushed to heights unseen as both men drive each other harder than ever. What terrifies them most is not the risk of implosion, but the possibility that Hamilton and Verstappen, despite their egos, could channel the rivalry into raw speed that crushes everyone else. Fans are equally divided. For some it's pure theater, the promise of fireworks every race weekend, not only wheel-to-wheel battles but radio exchanges, strategy feuds, and subtle acts of defiance. For others, it's the dream matchup of eras colliding, the champion who defined the last decade facing the driver who has dominated the present, both wearing the same colors, both forced to coexist inside the same garage. Every practice session, every qualifying lap, every race start is now a stage for this ongoing duel. This isn't just about winning races anymore. It's about pride, about dominance, about legacies colliding in real time. Red Bull has placed two giants in one space, and the fallout promises to ripple through every corner of Formula One. Whether the experiment leads to glory or catastrophe, the sport has rarely felt this charged, this unpredictable, this alive with anticipation. The entire world is waiting to see who bends and who breaks. Toto Wolf's frustration has reached a level that those around him describe as almost unbearable. He had invested months of quiet effort into creating the perfect conditions for Hamilton's return, moving carefully in the background, negotiating with subtlety, and piecing together a plan that he believed would be irresistible. It wasn't just about financial incentives, though Wolf had shown a rare willingness to stretch Mercedes' salary framework to accommodate Hamilton. It was about influence, respect, and the opportunity to close the circle of their shared story. Wolf had promised him a stronger voice in shaping the direction of the car, a seat at the table in technical discussions, and the satisfaction of ending his career with a team that defined his greatness. For Wolf, this wasn't just strategy, it was legacy. Watching Hamilton instead align himself with Red Bull, the very organization that stripped Mercedes of its crown, has been a bitter blow, one that he views as a profound rupture of trust. In private, Wolf has reportedly spoken with an intensity that reveals how deeply personal this is for him. He has described Hamilton's choice as a betrayal, not just of their partnership, but of the legacy they built together over years of domination. That bond, forged through countless victories and moments of resilience, has been broken in the most painful way. The fact that Hamilton has chosen Red Bull makes it even worse, for it was that very team that turned Mercedes' reign into history. For Wolf, the image of Hamilton in their colors is not simply disappointing, it is a wound that will reopen every time Red Bull claims another win with him. Determined not to let the setback define Mercedes' future, Wolf has already begun redirecting the team's focus. Recruitment strategies are shifting, young drivers are being placed under closer evaluation, and technical leadership is being restructured with urgency. His message internally is one of renewal and resilience, that Mercedes must become stronger without leaning on past icons. Yet those close to him admit that no matter how much progress he makes, the sting of this decision will follow him. He believed Hamilton's career would end in silver, and now he faces the reality that it may conclude under the banner of his fiercest rival. At Ferrari, the mood is no less turbulent but charged with humiliation. Hamilton was presented to the world as the savior of Maranello, the man who would lead the prancing horse back to its rightful place at the top of Formula One. His signing was celebrated as a new era, a union of the sport's most successful driver with its most legendary team. The Tifosi were told to dream again, to believe that the drought would end, that Hamilton would bring championships back to Italy. That dream has been shattered in record time, and Ferrari is left trying to explain how their boldest move in decades has collapsed before it ever truly began. John Elkann and Fred Vasseur are said to be furious. Elkann, who personally endorsed Hamilton's arrival, now views his departure as an insult to Ferrari's honor, while Vasseur, who placed his reputation on the line to secure him, is being forced to answer difficult questions about his leadership. The betrayal feels sharper because Hamilton hasn't simply walked away. He has chosen Red Bull, the team Ferrari views as their greatest adversary. It is not just the loss of a driver, it is a symbolic defeat, a humiliation in front of the entire sporting world. The Italian press has erupted in outrage, labeling Hamilton's choice an affront to Ferrari's legacy and humiliation for the Scuderia. Commentators have called it one of the darkest chapters in modern Ferrari history, and fans have responded with fury, feeling that their loyalty has been taken for granted and their faith mocked. The Tifosi, known for their passion, have already begun voicing their anger with an intensity that threatens to overwhelm the team. For them, Hamilton's decision is not just a professional choice, it is a rejection of everything Ferrari stands for. On the track, the consequences are even more damaging. Ferrari has been struggling with inconsistency, flashes of speed overshadowed by errors and instability. Hamilton was supposed to bring the authority and experience to steady the ship, to be the cornerstone of a revival. Instead, his exit leaves Ferrari exposed, their weaknesses magnified, and their credibility questioned. To lose him to Red Bull, of all teams, is not just a setback, it is a disaster that strikes at the very core of Ferrari's identity. Mercedes feels wounded, Ferrari feels disgraced, and Red Bull has executed one of the most devastating moves in Formula One's political landscape. For Wolf, it is personal heartbreak. For Maranello, it is a blow to pride and tradition. And for Hamilton, it is the boldest, most controversial decision of his career, one that ensures his name will dominate the conversation not just for what he has achieved, but for the chaos he has unleashed. At Red Bull's base, the process of bringing Lewis Hamilton into the structure is unfolding with a sense of intensity that borders on relentless. The engineering crews are stretched thin, devoting countless hours to recalibrating simulators so they mirror every nuance of his technique. Brake maps, throttle sensitivity curves, steering torque responses, and corner entry profiles are being tested and retested until the car behaves in perfect harmony with his instincts. Specialists in ergonomics are obsessing over the smallest details, adjusting seat moldings, repositioning pedals, and fine-tuning steering wheel functions so that everything feels natural in his hands. In parallel, the telemetry teams are preparing to merge Hamilton's data with Verstappen's, but this technical integration has already exposed fault lines. Verstappen's group remains hesitant, wary of granting Hamilton unfiltered access to their carefully honed setup knowledge, convinced that his ability to absorb, analyze, and adapt could allow him to neutralize their advantage far more quickly than they are prepared for. Hamilton, however, refuses to compromise, insisting from the outset that parity must be absolute. His demand is clear: if he is part of this team, he will accept nothing less than complete equality. The commercial ripple effect has been just as dramatic. Corporate partners who had grown uneasy amid recent controversies are once again eager to invest, their confidence restored by the sheer magnetism of housing two of the most recognizable figures in global sport under one banner. Deals that were stalling have been reignited, new sponsors are queuing at the door, and contracts are being restructured with larger figures than ever before. Broadcasters across multiple continents are revising their programming in anticipation of an unprecedented spike in viewership. Market analysts already predict record-breaking numbers, not only for traditional marquee races but across the entire calendar, because Hamilton and Verstappen together guarantee a level of intrigue that stretches beyond hardcore racing audiences. Formula One's commercial rights holders are privately ecstatic, recognizing that this rivalry within one garage is poised to generate headlines, debates, and engagement at a scale the sport has rarely achieved. But not all voices share the same enthusiasm. Rival leaders are sounding alarms, worried that consolidating two megastars in one organization tilts the balance too far. Zak Brown has been outspoken, warning that such a concentration of talent threatens the competitive fabric of the championship. Mike Crack has echoed similar concerns, questioning whether the gamble could implode from within, dragging Red Bull into a storm of egos that no amount of technical dominance could manage. Among rival teams, the fear is twofold. Either Red Bull establishes an era of dominance that suffocates competition, or the partnership collapses in spectacular fashion, sending shockwaves through the grid. Signs of pressure are already evident inside Milton Keynes. Engineers quietly remark on the growing friction during simulation runs, where Hamilton pushes for adjustments that challenge established practices, while Verstappen's camp grows increasingly protective of routines that carried them to years of success. Senior figures find themselves in meetings that stretch long into the night, searching for compromises that keep both drivers satisfied without eroding trust. Every decision, whether concerning data access, resource allocation, or race strategy, carries magnified stakes. Publicly, the message remains polished and triumphant, presenting the partnership as a celebration of excellence. Behind closed doors, however, those tasked with managing the dynamic understand that they are navigating a razor's edge, where a single misstep could ignite conflict on a scale unseen in recent Formula One history. The broader paddock senses the volatility. Commentators analyze body language during press events, fans dissect every quote for hidden meaning, and journalists track rumors with growing urgency. The storyline has already escaped the confines of racing and entered mainstream culture, drawing in audiences captivated not just by the battle for victories, but by the clash of personalities destined to shape the season. What Red Bull has created is a spectacle that could cement their dominance for years to come or unravel in a blaze of rivalry that overshadows everything else. The outcome remains uncertain, but what no one doubts is that the arrival of Hamilton alongside Verstappen has already changed the face of the sport, and the drama has only just begun. The news has ripped through the sport like a lightning strike, leaving fans, teams, and pundits struggling to keep pace with the enormity of what has just been set in motion. Lewis Hamilton, the driver whose name has long been intertwined with the legacies of both Mercedes and Ferrari, has made the unthinkable choice to align himself with Red Bull. The announcement has ignited a storm of emotions across every corner of the racing world. For some, the excitement is intoxicating. Two of the fiercest competitors of this generation locked under the same roof, pushing one another to levels never before seen, guaranteeing battles so intense they could redefine the meaning of rivalry. These supporters envision qualifying sessions where fractions of a second separate brilliance from defeat, wheel-to-wheel clashes that stretch circuits to their limits, and championship showdowns that will be remembered for decades. But alongside the thrill lies unease. There are countless voices warning that this alliance is destined to collapse under the sheer weight of ego and ambition. They see Verstappen and Hamilton not as partners but as natural predators, each incapable of yielding, each desperate to prove supremacy. They imagine team meetings filled with tension, pit crews divided in loyalty, and on-track incidents that destroy races and tear holes in Red Bull's dominance. For these skeptics, the arrangement is not a dream pairing but a powder keg waiting for the inevitable spark. Everywhere, the debate rages. Social media has erupted into chaos, timelines consumed with arguments, memes, and wild speculation. Clips of their past collisions are replayed endlessly, each one dissected for clues about how future battles will unfold. Some claim Hamilton has made this leap to cement his legacy beyond doubt, determined to beat Verstappen within his own empire. Others believe Verstappen welcomed the challenge, certain that conquering Hamilton head-to-head will elevate his reign above comparison. Entire fanbases clash in digital arenas. Mercedes supporters seethe with betrayal. Ferrari followers lament another cruel twist in their endless cycle of heartbreak, and Red Bull fans swing between elation and dread, unsure whether to celebrate the boldest gamble in years or brace for its consequences. Inside the paddock, the reverberations are immediate. Toto Wolf's fury is unmistakable, his once unbreakable bond with Hamilton fractured in an instant. In Maranello, executives are left scrambling, stunned at being jilted yet again, their carefully laid plans collapsing overnight. Rival team principals adjust strategies, already aware that the championship has been reshaped by a single decision. For the drivers, the implications are just as immense. Verstappen now faces the relentless pressure of having Hamilton in the other garage, every lap a test of supremacy. Russell, Leclerc, Norris, Alonso, each competitor feels the stakes sharpen, each opportunity now entangled in the fallout of this seismic shift. What awaits Red Bull is both exhilarating and perilous. Every debrief will carry undercurrents of rivalry, every strategy meeting will be a political chess match, and every lap on track will feel like a declaration of war. The garage that once symbolized unity now becomes a crucible where ambition and pride will battle as fiercely as the cars themselves. Fans around the world are captivated because they know the coming season will not simply be about points or podiums. It will be about survival, about control, about legacies colliding at full speed. Hamilton's choice has redrawn the map of Formula One. Whether it leads to glory or disaster, the outcome will be remembered for generations. If the partnership thrives, it could deliver the most electrifying era the sport has ever seen. If it collapses, it will go down as the implosion that shattered a dynasty. Either way, Formula One has entered a chapter so volatile, so unpredictable, that no fan, no rival, and no insider can look away. The stage is set for a season unlike any before, one built on ambition, rivalry, and the raw magnetism of two giants forced to share the same fire.